And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Welcome to The Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast.
Flippity-jibbity nonsense.
I thought it was terrific.
It's not just big, it's yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome, and thanks for listening to The Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. My name is Jeff Morey, and I'm your host. This week, it's back to one of my passions, prepping, and I have a special guest lined up to talk about a subject that's rarely covered in the world of prepper podcasts and shows: how to build the ultimate bug-out vehicle. We're going to discuss everything you need to know to help guide and inspire you to select the right vehicle and start your build. While I'm a seasoned prepper, admittedly, bug-out vehicles are not my area of expertise. While I do have all my vehicles stocked and ready for disaster, I myself am not a mechanic or engineer, nor am I very mechanically inclined. Apart from changing oil, spark plugs, starters, and rotating tires, I don't go much beyond that when it comes to maintaining my own vehicles. So for that reason, I know when I need to reach out for help so that you and me can hopefully get some great information before diving into a build. So my special guest this week is Grumpy. Grumpy obviously is not his real name. No, Grumpy is his code name for my show, because Grumpy lives in very deep blue Washington state, surrounded by liberals that don't agree with some of his political views or persuasions. It didn't take me long to realize after talking with Grumpy for a little while and hearing him talk about some of his builds that I found my guy for my show to bring in as my expert on the subject. I knew right away from talking to him that Grumpy was legit when he told me all about some of his preps and how he prepares, and maybe most of all, that he didn't want to give away his identity. I do a prepper podcast, so I don't really have much of a choice, unfortunately, if I want to have a good show. But rest assured when I tell you, I may at some point post and shoot some videos to my YouTube channel, but no one outside of my family will ever know the full extent of my preps. And I think any legit prepper will tell you that the more you keep to yourself, the better. Because if you're faced with a SHTF situation, everyone knowing what you have, how much you have, and how well protected it is a major operational and situational failure. Because when everyone in your neighborhood is starving, guess who they're going to band together and come looking for to survive? You guessed it, the prepper who they know has tons of food and water, medical supplies, and anything else they need to survive. When people are faced with life or death situations, believe me, you'll see people, even good people, do things you wouldn't expect in order to protect and provide for them and their families. So yes, keeping your preps close to the vest, so to speak, and even your identity secret is smart for the elite prepper. So like I said, Grumpy is my guy for this show. So, well, I will let him tell you a little bit more about his qualifications, experience, and builds before we dive into building the ultimate bug-out vehicle. But first, let's talk about some of this week's news stories. Did anyone follow the Blue Origin supposed space flight this week that allegedly sent pop star Katy Perry, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' fiancée Lauren Sanchez, Gayle King, activist Amanda Newang, film producer Carrie Ann Flynn, and former astronaut Aisha Brown into space for a very brief, all-female 11-minute space flight? As the story goes, the crew flew up to the Kármán line, which is widely accepted as the edge of space, and were able to experience weightlessness before returning back to Earth. Funny thing is, there's a video circulating the internet of Jeff Bezos having to use a tool to open the door of the capsule, which is supposedly the only way to get in or out. But in the video, it shows someone accidentally opening the door before Bezos was supposed to open it for the crew to board. Is anyone buying this? Does anyone really think that they actually went to space? I don't. I have so many questions about our supposed space travels to start with, especially the supposed moon landing. But that's another topic for another time. I'm sure everyone has seen the Florida State University school shooting that happened on Thursday, killing 2 people and wounding several more. Police identified the suspect as Phoenix Igner, a 20-year-old stepson of a sheriff's deputy and FSU student. At around 11:50 a.m., Igner got out of an orange Hummer and opened fire near the student union before the police were eventually able to neutralize and capture him. The shooting happened just before a forum aimed at countering hate on campus was supposed to begin. And there's still so many more questions and answers on this incident and a motive. Our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone involved and their families. In the ongoing saga that involves Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the suspected member of the infamous MS-13 gang and illegal alien, who was deported to El Salvador, on Thursday, Democrat Senator from Maryland, Chris Van Hollen, actually flew to El Salvador to meet with Garcia and plead with the Salvadorian government for his release. According to a report released by Homeland Security Investigations, Garcia is a suspected human trafficker. Not only that, but his own wife even wrote in a filing that he was violent and said, quote, "At this point, I'm afraid to be close to him." He was stopped in 2022 by the Tennessee Highway Patrol after he was caught speeding and unable to stay in his lane. Reportedly, there were 8 other individuals in the car with him, and Garcia pretended to speak less English and ask a lot of questions. Supposedly next, the Tennessee patrolman let Garcia go with a warning for driving with an expired license. This whole thing just reeks of a cover-up to me. Why is this guy so important that a U.S. senator would fly down there to meet with him personally and try to secure his release? News broke today that Secretary of State Marco Rubio has laid out an ultimatum to Russia and Ukraine, declaring that the U.S. would be moving on from participating in peace negotiations if they didn't, quote, yield results soon. He also said, quote, "We have other priorities to focus on as well, and it's not our war." Conflicting reports have indicated that Russia has been unwilling to take further steps toward peace talks unless they are given some reprieve from economic sanctions that have been imposed by the US and the European Union. And thus far, the EU has appeared unwilling to make any concessions. I think everyone knows how I feel about it. America first always. It's not our job to be the world police. Speaking of the world, an overnight airstrike on the Ras Issa port in Yemen has reportedly killed more than 70 people and wounded many more, marking a major escalation in the campaign launched against the Houthis by the Trump administration. The U.S. is targeting the Houthis following multiple attacks on container and transport ships in the Red Sea and Israel. The port is a major hub for fuel shipments and the supply line for the Houthis, who are the last major military group in Iran that is capable of regularly staging major attacks against Israel and other U.S. allies. The Houthis have, of course, condemned the attacks and called them, quote, completely unjustified aggression. All right, I think that just about covers everything going on in the news this week. At this time, I would like to welcome my guest, codenamed Grumpy. What's up, Grumpy? How are you, man?
I am excellent. Kids have good grades. Chickens are laying eggs, and Amazon just dropped off a ton of parts, so I'm gonna get to work. Oh, and we just put a bunch of firewood away to dry out for the summer.
Heck yeah. Sounds like a
Yeah.
good week. I like it.
Oh yeah.
Um, so before we get started talking about bug out vehicles, without giving away your identity, could you tell us a little bit more about what you do for a living and how you first became a prepper?
All right. So I got a lot here. So I'm just gonna throw it all at you and just kind of give you my background and how I became this guy. Um, I have been fixing, welding, CAD designing, Chinese blueprinting, I could honestly say my entire life. At some point in my childhood, I'd watched this movie from the 70s called Damnation Alley. And on that show, there's this vehicle called the Landmaster. And before I was 10 years old, that show turned me into a total gearhead. I had to know more about it. Prepping. Let's talk. I mean, a little coverage on that. Prepping growing up wasn't really a thing. Was just the way things were. I mean, that's just how my family was at the time. When people around us failed to do what was obvious, have a little bit of extra firewood and whatnot, it was just kind of like, well, what happened? And that's kind of what classified us as preppers. Real quick talk on my motivation of life. So I am a father of 5 kids. I'm a husband to my high school sweetheart, my lovely wife. I'm a hobby farmer of 10 acres up in the wilderness, and I'm dreaming of working from my shop and retiring that way. Work history. So I started in high school fixing lawnmowers and just kind of worked my way there. In trade school, I had 2 jobs. I was at a machine shop and I worked at an auto parts store. For the past 11 years, I've been a mobile diesel mechanic, or well, 11 years after that, I was a mobile diesel mechanic. Part of that time was at General Dynamics on the Striker program. So I got a lot of feel for that kind of hardware. I did a lot of motorcycle mechanic work, part-time, on and off. I just like motorcycles. It's one of my things. Part of that time I was at a motorcycle sidecar manufacturer, and we specialized in adventure bikes. It was really cool. I got to meet a lot of really cool people. I was starting, so at this time, I mean, the 11 years there wasn't a time I didn't have more than 2 jobs. I mean, I always had 2 jobs or more because I was starting a family and a lot of motivation to succeed and build the house. For the past 12 years, I've been working for an aerospace company as a civilian general contractor, equipment service engineer. I help build machines to help build and maintain aircrafts. And that's pretty much all I can say on that.
Understood.
I have built 3 family-rated bug-out vehicles up until this point, and right now in the shop, I've got 3 I'm working on right now because I've sold off a couple that they actually profited. They profited. Normally, when you do a build, you don't profit on those things, and I did pretty good this time. I think the world's kind of like coming to a point where they feel like they need to be a little more prepared in this world, and certain individuals, certain clients, I should say, were really interested in the vehicles and I had to do a little more modification, customization to their specs, but it was cool. I enjoyed it. Now I'm building 3 more. Yeah, that's who I am.
Awesome, man. That's experience. And that's why I brought you on the show with me, because I've been a prepper for quite a while, but this is something that I've never really dove into myself. It's something that eventually I want to, but there's different definitions for a bug out vehicle, but all my vehicles, are stocked, and prepared and that sort of thing. But they don't have, the mods and the kind of stuff that you do, the depth that you go into it. And this is something that, when I'm not an expert at something as a show host, I bring in somebody that is, because I'm not going to sit here and tell all my listeners about something that I don't know that much about. And me and you've chatted for a little bit, and I remember I said it in the preview here that I was like, this is my guy when I started talking to you, and yeah, just your experience and everything you bring to this. I mean, you're the perfect guy to talk to about this. So, um, since you're the expert on this subject, how would you define a bug out vehicle and its purpose?
All right. So my definition, a bug out vehicle is a purpose-built vehicle with the intention of evacuating individuals and equipment during an emergency situation. So I don't build war wagons with gun-mounted turrets. That's not what I'm about. Let's keep it real. I want to daily drive these vehicles every day, and I want to throw my kids in the back and pull up to the soccer game without the parents wondering what's going on next doors. Rabbit trail. A quick rabbit trail. You were talking about specialists. I mean, and talking about preppers, every prepper should be part of a MAG group, a mutual assurance group, and every MAG group should have specialized individuals in that group.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those passions that I just feel like as a community, we should all have a couple of those individuals all teamed up together, and they take their cert classes. I don't know if you guys have cert over there. Over here on the West Coast, we have a thing called cert where you do through the fire department and you get all trained up for
Yeah.
emergencies, and
Yeah.
it's
We
all
did.
volunteer
I'm a
based.
former firefighter myself, so former
Right.
EMT and firefighter. So yeah, we did a lot. I mean, it was everything that we did was firefighter was basically for the department, different certifications and that sort of thing. It wasn't, um, prepping based per se, but I think you'll find a lot of the preppers like me that have shows and that, share knowledge about it. We have some kind of background in this
Yeah,
stuff.
there's a
But
ton of crossover.
yeah, absolutely. So, but yeah, continue, please.
Most BOVs are daily driven, in my opinion. At least the guys that I've talked to, they're daily driven, and they have more in common with expedition and overlander crowd guys. They're the guys with the oversized tires, winch bumpers, rooftop tents. Those guys. They blend right in with us, and vice versa. It's kind of the goal is you want to be that gray man. If
The
anything, you're
gray
going to be
man,
part of.
absolutely.
Yeah, you just you don't need to advertise that. Yeah, we don't do that. Um,
Did you ever watch Doomsday Preppers and see some of the
oh man,
ridiculous, like, tank things that these guys would have? And I used to laugh when I saw that. I was like, "Yeah, right." Like, that's not nobody does that. I
no,
mean, this isn't what a bug out vehicle really is. Nobody has time to go home to get their tank and their underground, facility or anything like that. That's a joke. I mean, so I mean, this is what we're geared at. We're looking at daily drivers and things that people actually can afford to build and that are feasible to build type thing.
absolutely. Absolutely. So that was my last line I wrote here on my notes is that, it's like we're going for, we're just talking about the average individual, how they can go about choosing or building a BOV and modifying their already existing vehicle to meet their needs, right?
Got you. You talked about your builds. Can you tell us a little bit more details about some of your previous builds?
So real quick, so I've got about 7 steps I go about choosing a vehicle for an individual or particular family, right? So this kind of fits everybody. The first thing you need to figure out, because the purpose of a vehicle is transporting your goods and your peoples. So how many people do you need to move, right? How much gear do you need to move? Do you have pets you got to move? Do you have animals you're trying to move to your bug out location, or just the location you're trying to get the high ground to, whatever it might be, right? That's number one. Number two, can you daily drive it? That's the big one. I mean, I think you can't just build these vehicles and make them sit. They're not going to work. Diesel engines specifically do not like to sit.
No.
They just deteriorate. You daily drive them, they seem to maintain themselves within reason. Um, type of so this goes back to like, what are you preparing for, right? Type of environment and what you're preparing for. That's number three. Number four is what's the distance to your bug out location? What's the distance to your safe zone, right? Your safe space, whatever it might be, however you want to call it. And because we're really primarily worried about fuel consumption. And we're going to highlight that later in this conversation, I think. But the big one for number four is, does your vehicle hold enough fuel without stopping to get there? You don't have time to stop. Finally, when you choose a vehicle, is this realistic? Is the tank going to be realistic to drive to work? So, like in my case, I can't daily drive a Suburban. That's just not realistic for me.
Right.
Did you pick a vehicle that meets all the needs? So for somebody like me, I want to be able to have a nice blank canvas, and I'm going to highlight this later on, but I'd like to have an older vehicle so that way I know all the weaknesses. It's already been out there. You can Google it and you can modify it and rebuild it. There's already going to be some sort of track of how dependable that vehicle is going to be, right? Um, okay, and then if it doesn't meet all your needs, how much is it going to cost to modify that vehicle to meet your needs? That's number seven. That's the last one. Like, and then you got to balance everything. So it's like once you pick a vehicle, say it's a Volkswagen, it's a Beetle, right? But you want four-wheel drive. How much is it going to cost to modify that vehicle to turn it into a four-wheel drive vehicle and, not be ridiculous. Um, let's jump right into fuel. So fuel for me is a big one. I'm a diesel guy. I'm sure you kind of figured that one out just
I
by
did.
hearing how I talk. There's really only four options out there. You got diesel, you got gas, you got propane, and then you've got the hybrid stuff. And that goes back to, I mean, you can eliminate those by going back to what are you preparing for? Are you just worried about a really good earthquake or the zombie apocalypse? Let's just joke. Um, or are you actually concerned about an EMP, electromagnetic pulse? At that point, you're really limiting what you can consume for fuel. I don't trust any of the EV vehicles as far as EMP goes. And I've played with these. I work with them all the time with different equipment that requires it to be an electric vehicle for explosion-proof reasons. Um, and they're not hardened enough. They're just not going to work out for electromagnetic pulse
Well, I
and
think
still
I think with
survive.
the EVs too. Well, you got to think also in a real SHTF scenario, you may have to do a field repair, or you may have to get parts. You have to think reliability. I mean, these things, the average Joe just can't fix one of these things.
No,
You got to take this to a dealership. I mean, you've seen how much the batteries for these things cost. I mean, it costs the replacement of the car. So,
yeah,
I mean,
even
yeah, and I'm going to bring up EMPs a little bit later, and I agree 100%. I've never heard of any true prepper even talk about really doing an EV. I mean, I use, of course, the Hummer EVs out. I don't know anybody that has one, but I personally, I don't see that as being feasible as a bug out vehicle. And
I gotta laugh.
anybody that listens to my show, um, to me, prepping is all inclusive.
Yep,
You don't
EV's out.
Yeah, you don't think about one particular scenario. A good prepper doesn't think about one particular scenario. I brought up doomsday preppers earlier. I used to crack me up to how every episode, like, they're preparing for the Yellowstone eruption or, um, civil unrest. A good prepper prepares for everything, period.
Right.
And I think that folds right into your build too. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. So
Or you raise the bar so high that you're covering almost everything. So like
absolutely,
EMP, that covers everything. I mean, that it really does. I
it
mean,
does. Yeah.
if you go that route, you're pretty much dialed in for everything you need. And then oh no, wait, I'll finish the fuel thing. So gasoline's not a bad way to go, especially if you're one of those guys that knows how to still set points. You know what points are?
I do not know what points are.
All right, points are the old school distributor setup for your ignition system, the sparking side of things for
Oh,
the
okay,
engine.
okay. Yeah, I have heard that before. I'm not a mechanical guy. I've changed some starters and I do my own oil changes, and
Yeah, no,
that's about as far as I get. I'm not even in the same stratosphere as you as far as that's why I have you on here to talk about this stuff because it's just
totally.
not my thing. So
Yeah, I don't want to assume. So it's like I just want to put these
no,
things out there.
absolutely, and a lot of the listeners may not know what that is either. So
Yeah,
yeah, please touch on
but
anything. I mean, this is an educational episode. So
so there was a test done a long time ago through the military. I think it was DARPA before they became officially DARPA, but they have this huge wooden platform and they put these airplanes on there. I got it written down somewhere. It don't matter. Anyways, they were talking on there like, what is the survivability of an EMP for these military planes? What do we have to do?
right,
And those ignition systems are actually still running on a distributor and point system. They're not using fly by wire. They're not using any of the newer technology. I'll just sum it up to that. And I
right,
mean newer by like, I'm talking like 1988 and newer. They're still using an old school retro style ignition system unless they are so hardened. And I mean, everything has a shield on, and it's a literal like copper wire or gold plated shield to absorb that EMP pulse. I will go down a rabbit trail with that, and I'll stop right there. So I go back down to diesel, where diesel don't care. Diesel really doesn't care. It has compression, it has fuel, and it has air. It will run. It don't care. As long as you have an old school, and I mean, this goes all the way up to like 1990, 2002, I think, on the 7.3 Fords. If those are mechanical injections, they don't care. You have to put an electric pulse to shut them down. As far as turning off the fuel to the engines, that's the only way they shut off. So they're a lot more dependable and a lot more reliable. I mean, rugged equipment. So I'm a diesel guy through and through. Um, yeah, and propane. Propane's a good option as long as, again, back to you're talking about spark plugs and points and distributors. Propane's not a bad way to go because propane doesn't go bad.
Doesn't
It
go
just
bad.
doesn't.
I've covered that before too. I recommend propane. I've recommended propane as far as like home fuel for like a dual fuel generator or something. I've covered
Yep,
that before for that reason because propane you can store it indefinitely and it burns
absolutely.
clean too. That's another good thing. Like you can use propane in like a generator, for example. You're talking about it for a vehicle. It doesn't
Yep,
clog your injectors or anything
yep.
like that. It burns clean. So you
Still
never
clean.
have to worry about that level of maintenance with propane. So that's an excellent point.
There's only, yeah, when you drain the oil on a propane burning engine, it looks like it's brand new.
Brand new. Absolutely.
It's ridiculous. The only thing you do have to worry about is cold weather with propane.
Yep.
So, like for me, I'm doing a lot of preparedness towards the cold weather because I'm towards the Canadian border area, and I don't know. It's part of my scenario package where I'm kind of concerned for like the way the world works, and I feel like we're in a cycle that eventually might see another mini ice age. So back down to I'm back to diesel again because propane will not um, boil off below negative. I think it's 13 degrees. I need to look that up. I'm sorry. I'm pulling that out of nowhere.
That's okay.
But there's a certain temperature where, like up in Alaska, if they're using propane to warm or heat or cook, they'll actually take hay bales and they'll insulate the outside of their propane tank with these hay bales. And as the hay bales mold and break down, right, they release heat and they make the propane tank actually warm up a little bit. So that's their trick up in Alaska with propane. So it's not a bad way to go as long as you're not worried about cold weather. But yeah, back to diesel. As long as that engine's still running, that engine's going to circulate that diesel fuel back to the tank and actually preheat the oil or the diesel fuel in the tank for you.
Right.
So it is a good way to go, man.
Well, and a lot of diesels too. The larger diesels have a lot of them have heaters that you can plug
Yep,
in too. Like I drive a truck for a living. We
yep.
don't where I live in Tennessee, we don't get temperatures that extreme to where we have to worry about that. But I'm sure you could probably incorporate that into your bill. But a lot of our trucks in our fleet, they have plugs to where you can plug in the engine heater, for your sub-zero temperatures and that sort of thing to keep them
Oh,
running and keep them warm. So
yep. And then I'm going to come back to this. The last thing I was going to say about diesel before I beat this horse to death is that you don't have to burn diesel oil to keep that engine alive. Every single one of those transformers that you drive by that are up on the telephone pole, they have mineral oil in them, and there's like 20 gallons in each one of them. And that mineral oil, you pour that directly into your diesel tank, it will burn it. It don't care. It
that
will
is a that
burn.
is a phenomenal tip that a lot of people do not know.
One more thing, automatic transmission fluid. Every single one of these automatic vehicles that are broke down on the side of the road has about a gallon and a quarter worth of transmission fluid in them. It will burn it. It doesn't care.
Great
That's
advice.
diesel fuel. So ATF, mineral oil, vegetable oil, if you can get it in liquid form, it doesn't work with the big bricks, the greasy bricks.
Right.
It doesn't like to burn that. My last vehicle, I had it set up where I had a diesel um, heat exchanger from the coolant side, so it preheat my fuel before it got to my injector, and I was burning a mixture of vegetable oil and diesel oil during the winter, and then during the summer I would burn straight vegetable oil all day, and I didn't do the biodiesel thing. I didn't even bother. I just put straight vegetable oil in there. I didn't care.
So I
I
guess
did change a
sustainability and consumption type perspective, you could actually probably, and I guess that's the question I'm just asking because I don't know, could you like blend this stuff to extend your fuel reserves in theory?
Absolutely.
That's great stuff. I didn't know that.
Absolutely. I have an ICBM tote that's about 3 feet off the ground, and I put the veggie oil into the top of that. It goes through a quick pre-filter that grabs all the French fries and stuff, right?
Right.
Because this is all used vegetable oil. I'm getting it for free. And then it sits in the tank, and I'm only pulling from the tank when I need to. And at the bottom of the tank is a grease trap, just like you have at the bottom of your sink, except for this one has a valve at the bottom. And I crack that thing open, and I get all the water that separates from the vegetable oil out of that because water settles to the bottom. It's heavier. So I drain that, get all the water out before I fill up my truck, get all the water out, and I pour that water onto my burn pile. That's probably not eco-friendly, but I'm a farmer and that's the way we roll. It's
Right.
vegetable oil, guys. Come on, calm down. And then and then that runs through a screen filter and then a paper filter. And then it finally goes to my truck. And then on my truck, I have a massive fuel filter that came off of a semi truck, like a C12D Caterpillar.
Right.
So, I mean, we're talking, it's bigger than anybody's Starbucks cup. Let me put it that way. So, yeah. And then I'll change the filter out as I need on my truck. And same thing with the filter or the oil tank I have at home. And then that oil too will work in your oil furnace at home. I have a whole circle of prepping going on here with all of that. That's my last thing I'm going to say about diesel before we get into the builds. And that's why I'm a diesel guy, die hard true. I'm building an S10 Blazer right now, and I'm swapping out the 4.3 for an Isuzu diesel, 4.2 liter. That's a 4DB1T, I think. Anyways, and that's going to be my daily driver now.
Nice.
I'm just a diesel guy. I can't help it. Just,
Hey, man, everything you said makes perfect sense. It perfect
I'm
sense. I mean,
trying.
I think most of the people that cover this subject, I hear a lot talk about, especially with EMPs, about having an old carbureted vehicle, that's not doesn't have the modern fuel injection, and they get into things like that but you don't really hear a lot of talk about diesel, honestly, other than heavy duty applications. You hear it for the heavy duty stuff for the, like the military trucks, but you don't really hear it for like you're talking about putting one in a S10. That's great stuff because, like I said, everything I ever hear, just hear about having an older vehicle that's going to be not going to be as susceptible to an EMP attack. So it makes perfect sense. Of course, a lot of people, Joe Blows like me, don't have the technical skill to do that, but I'm sure you could hook up with, a good fabricator or a shop, by where you live, and they could probably hook you up with that type of thing. Am I right?
Yeah, for the most part. So when choosing, the last thing you need to do when you're choosing your vehicle is you need to figure out, okay, what's it going to take to customize this vehicle to turn into something that I can actually use to, bug out with, right? So if the modifications outweigh, if the outweigh your price book, your checkbook, then you need to look for another vehicle. Um, it I call it the customization index, right? And if you can't customize your vehicle to meet your needs, you got to keep looking. Um, Aftermarket support, your bank account, and your ability to do it yourself. Those are the things that are really gonna limit you on what you can do with any vehicle, because they're all blank slates to me, man.
Right.
We can do anything. Yeah,
Well, let's
I'm
let's
really
talk about a couple things. First of all, throw some vehicles out there that you would recommend that you would think from your experience that would be good vehicles, and then we'll talk about some of the things we need to consider as well.
before I dive into this, let's keep in mind this is very a personal bias on all of
Right.
these. I build old rigs. They're like a blank canvas to me, free of all the extra stuff,
Right.
airbags and stuff like that. I mean, airbags have a place, um, just not for most of the vehicles I end up working with. Anti-lock brakes, traction control, the button that shifts your transfer case into four-wheel drive is worthless to me. Any vehicle with a button is worthless. I mean, unless you plan on swapping out that transfer case for a mechanical, grab the lever and
Right.
shift it into four-wheel drive, I'm not interested in it at all. So here's some of the vehicles I've actually modified. I can give you a list of vehicles I actually like that I wouldn't mind seeing people modify and work
Yeah.
with, but
Yeah, absolutely.
you want that instead, or the vehicles I've actually built?
Either. I mean, this is educational for me and for the audience. So you're an expert on this. So give us what you got, man, and tell us what you think, would be some great examples of things we could build.
So I got four examples. So like for the lone wolf guy, the like two people maximum. I mean, I like old 4x4 diesel trucks, SUVs, um, the long bed trucks with the four-wheel drive, right? If you have a long bed truck and you're a lone wolf dude that doesn't have kids and whatnot, you're a young man or old man or whatever, you're going to be a very popular dude during a situation when most vehicles are broke down, or even
Right.
during like a natural emergency situation. If you have a long bed truck where you can get to the other side where the FEMA camp is and pick up pallets of water or get the generators where they need to be, even though that agencies don't want you to get them there, we'll leave it at that.
Right.
You're the guy. I mean, you're in business. I guarantee you will be fed and
Yeah.
you will have fuel.
And you'll be the barter king too. So
Yeah. I, and that's pretty much all I have to say about that. If you can put a four-wheel drive vehicle together that is bomb-proof, you're golden. That's the two-wheel drive. I mean, that's the two people maximum. Get yourself a truck, an old, like a 98 Dodge 12 valve Cummins 2500, 3500 four-wheel drive, or get yourself an older Toyota. And there's like 8 companies I was just reading on it last week where they're offering uh, the adapter kits, like a complete adapter kit for the Volkswagen diesels, the older Volkswagen diesels, the 2
Mhm.
liters, and the Mercedes, the OM617. They came in the 300D Mercedes, the ugly car that looks like a shaver, electric shaver.
Right.
That engine will bolt with this adapter kit, will bolt directly into a Toyota. I
Wow.
mean, I'm talking about the Forerunners, the Toyota trucks, and I'm talking first, second, and third generation Toyota trucks. So all the way up to what is it, like 2015? Um, and you'll have a bomb-proof power plant. As long as you have a mechanical, a manual transmission and you can drive a manual, you're golden. Um, there are a few options out there that are automatic transmissions and they don't depend on a computer. You just got to really dive in and do your research with those. That's all I'm going to say on that.
I think a prepper driving a manual is a skill that every prepper should have anyway.
Yeah,
Honestly.
my
'Cause I mean, you never know if you're gonna have to you're in a situation where you're gonna have to abandon the vehicle and you're gonna have to find a vehicle. Um,
I
I mean, that's a skill everybody should. I mean, I'm a truck driver. I'm old school truck driver. So I mean, I've driven everything from I drive a 5-speed car to work every day, and then I've driven an 18-speed with high level mid, shifter in it. So I mean, obviously, I'm an expert on that, but and a lot of people aren't. But I think that's we talk about skills with prepping. That's a skill everyone should have. Honestly,
yeah,
anybody that's got a driver's license should have that skill.
yeah, you don't need a twin stick, but I mean, you can if you can drive a manual, you're
Yeah,
doing better than most people. Heck,
absolutely.
I've seen videos where guys will break into a car, they'll look at the manual transmission, they go, "Dang it," and they get back out and they leave.
And guess what? You can push start a manual.
Yes, you can.
You can push start a manual. You don't have to. You don't have to have that ignition key and everything.
So, quick quick story, little rabbit trail.
Yep.
So, I'm up in the mountains. I'm just gonna say that.
Yep.
And I went on a hiking trail, did a little thing on my own. I like to hunt. And I was pretty far up there and I didn't see anybody else up there. It was a good place, had a good little pre hunt, just looking to see where the animals were moving. Came back out and I realized my door never shut all the way. My dome light was on all day and my battery's completely dead. This is you ever heard of a Dodge Raider?
I have. I know
Or,
what a Raider is. Yep.
oh man, I love that vehicle. I miss it.
They don't
Yeah,
make
it's a
them like
Mitch.
that anymore.
No, they don't. It's a Mitsubishi Pajero. So I really like a lot of the diesel imports because they're just built to be in the backcountry of deep China or, the Middle East where you're not going to get parts. Anyways, so I'm at the top of this hill I've got my toolbox with me, which has got some basic stuff in it. Luckily, I was just over at a friend's house and I did some soldering. And I did some copper pipes for him, right? Did sweated some pipes in, and I have my propane tank, and it's cold, so my little diesel's not gonna start. It's just not gonna do it up there, even with a compression start. But I remembered I had the propane torch, so I went inside of my underneath my hood where my metal lines come from my fuel injection pump up to the injectors, and I preheated those with the propane tank. Just warmed them up, didn't get crazy, just got them nice and warm. And that
Right.
truck fired right up like it had somewhere to go.
Wow.
So there's my little rabbit trail on getting things ready to go.
Great
But
information.
that was one of the vehicles, by the way, I was going to mention. It's an import. They're kind of hard to get. It's the Mitsubishi Pajero. It's going to have the diesel motor in it, and I can't say enough good things about that little diesel. It's it's not going to break any records, but it'll get you there all day.
And that's all that matters. And the scenarios we're talking about, that's what's important.
We talked about the Ford 7.3. Uh, Once you get past 99, there's a lot of electronics going on, but everything I've looked at, that truck really wants to run. Like you got to do dumb things to make that truck not run. Mess with the wiring, short circuit things like that, but it really wants to run. So that's not a bad truck at all. Um, big, big trucks, like semi trucks, the older ones, anything before. I know with California emissions, there's a lot of cutoffs on a lot of these trucks driving on the road anymore. But if you go into like an old fire station or any of those places that are getting rid of their old fleet, or I'm talking like 2-ton trucks, that's a good way to go. And I'm still talking about the lone wolf guy. This is
Right.
this is a good way to go for you. Okay, second scenario, vehicles good to choose for. This is for the small family, 4 people maximum, right? Four-wheel drive, SUVs, ex-military, etc. Examples, the 4x4 Suburban, Expeditions. Some of those came with diesels in them, or you can modify them over. Um, Dodge didn't really do a very good job of putting diesels in their vehicles and for the station wagons and the SUVs, the big SUVs. They're what is the Ram Charger? That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I can't really suggest that one very well, but I really like the body. 4-door trucks. That's not a bad way to go at all. If you can get yourself an old four-door truck, again, diesel. Ex-military trucks, the Unimogs, the Pinzers. This is foreign military, obviously, but and you're going to pay a ridiculous amount of money for these vehicles, and they definitely have that military look to them, but they don't have the turret on them. They're not armored up. They get awesome mileage. They get up to 70 miles an hour. They're not going to break any records, but they blend in and they're just something cool to talk about. So, I
Right.
mean, I can see a lot of families jumping on that bandwagon and just kind of having the cool military truck driving around, and they're just cool. Um, okay, second scenario is you got a big family, right? I've got a big family. 4x4 vans, they're hard
Veins.
to come across, but if you can afford it and you can build it, get yourself a 4-wheel drive van, in my opinion.
You don't talk, I mean, you talk about gray man too. Nothing blends in
Yeah.
like white panel van.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen a lot of these now that I know, like the last 10 years, I've been really noticing these 4-wheel drive vans, and I'm like, I never knew that was even 4-wheel drive. I had no idea. Like the Chevy Astrovan, they sold that in an all-wheel drive version, and it's got the 4.3 in it.
That's
So
a great
that's not a
motor.
bad.
Yeah, that's a
It's
phenomenal
really,
motor. So
it's got a good track record. Um, and then there's imports that are coming in left and right too they're right-hand drive. They're different, but they have a lot of seats, and they're little diesels, and they rock. The Mitsubishis, the Isuzus, I'm trying to think of the other ones. There's a few weird names out there, but cross-reference those vehicles with the vehicles that are here in the United States, and you're going to find a pool of parts. They're just uncommon. You just got to know what vehicles to look up when you go to the auto parts store where to find that oddball part. Like filters, for example. You might have to change out your filter head so it'll accept a different filter. And then, buses. Don't overlook a bus. I'm like a heartbeat away from getting a bus at this point because the Meg group and everything else that happens, I'm really seriously considering getting a short bus because they're just cool.
You can get them cheap. You'd be
They are
surprised
cheap too.
you get them on surplus yard. You can get them cheap. I've looked at buses myself before. They are mega cheap, and they're in great
And
condition.
and they have a decent motor in them most of the time.
They
If you
do.
can get a diesel motor, if it's the diesel, it's either going to be the Cummins, the 4B or yeah, the 4BT, the 4-cylinder version that everybody seems to love for some reason. It's not a bad engine. It's just a little more hype than it should get, I think. The 7.3, the Duramax is an okay engine. I like the Duramax to a certain extent. It's just I don't like the fact that when the fuel pump goes bad, it fills up your oil well with fuel. I don't like that. I can't, and you don't know what's happening. Um, so there's a few engines out there you just got to be aware of. The older Humvee motors though, the 6.5 and the 6.2, there's a lot of hate on that engine. But the thing is, if you don't ask for mega power out of it, bigger turbo, bigger injectors, that engine doesn't care. It'll run up to 300,000 miles. It does not care. As long as you're not asking for everything from it. Yeah, anyways, there's the GM side of thing. I'm kind of a GM guy, but I'm not afraid to jump the fence for anything, as long as
Yeah,
it's
that's me
worth
too.
its weight.
That's me too. I'm a GM guy as well, but I'm the same way.
And then,
We share that exact sentiment. So
right. But I'm not afraid that, like, I have a E450 van. It's the mega, I call it the supersized fun van. And the first thing I did is I put a limited slip in the rear because it'll get stuck in the front yard on
right,
flat ground because it's a one-wheeler peeler. We'll talk more about limited slip later when we talk about like retrofitting your vehicles and whatnot, but you got to get a limited slip or a locker for the
or a
rear.
locker. Yeah, most of the guys I think go with lockers, but yeah,
Yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit. There's a reason why I like the limited slip more. So then there's specialized rigs, right? If you're a mechanic, for example, you might have a specialized rig based on your skill set. If you're the dirt worker guy, you're going to have a truck that you probably drive to work every day. Build it, man. Um, if you're a semi truck driver, you might be an owner operator, and you can build yourself a pretty sweet rig. I'm just not a fan of Volvo or Max. That's just my opinion. Max are great trucks, but when they break, they're broken. Uh,
that's why you don't see a lot of them on the road. I can tell you
yeah,
that. And I'm a truck driver, like I said. You see a lot of Volvos because Volvos are relatively cost effective, and they get good fuel economy. But yeah, you rarely see. The only time I see Max on the road really is dump trucks. That's about it
yep,
these days.
yeah. Over here, it's dump trucks and logging trucks.
Yep.
Um, that and we've got two. The Italians own a lot of things over here, and the two big Italian Valmings over here run nothing but Mac. So, um, yeah, specialized vehicles. A lot of these specialized vehicles, you can find them I found them on Facebook Marketplace over and over again. Here's a 2.5 ton Kodiak from 1992, and it's a 4-wheel drive truck with a flatbed on the back. And I'm like, oh man, what can I do with that? So there's a lot of specialized vehicles out there that you can nab up and start building yourself. And they're basically a blank slate because they were designed with, mechanical doors, mechanical windows, and nothing electric on them. And they're just built to go to work. They're not showing off. Yeah, I mean, those are my top picks for the vehicles.
Let's kind of do this as all in one because we're talking about basically starting to build and things that you've built. And I know you're going to cover some of this, but I'm just going to talk about some of these different things we need to think about. Bulletproofing,
Right,
sustaining an EMP attack, being
right,
able to traverse deep water, spare or run flat tires, spare fuel tanks, storing food and supplies, quick mobile repairs, air filtration in the event of a nuclear event. And I know we're getting really, really deep in there with that kind of stuff, so we can just briefly touch on that. But weapons and defense systems. Um, you see a lot of guys. I mean, if you get on the road and you're in heavy traffic, I mean, you may want to think about having some kind of battering ram or something welded to the front of your truck to where you can, clear people out of the way if you have to. I think every kind of BOV should have some kind of camouflage, like a tarp or some kind of netting or something where you can hide it if you have to.
Right.
Having sanitation stuff with you in case you get gridlocked and stuck on the interstate or something like that, stuck on the highway. There's little things we need to think about.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk specifically vehicle.
Yep.
And if you want to, I mean, I can throw in a lot of the add-ons, but if it's not bolted onto that vehicle, I tried to leave it out. So a 1988 D50 mini truck diesel 4x4. We're talking about the little Ram 50, the little guy, the little Mitsubishi truck from the 1988. I mean,
Right.
from 1980s, just this little truck. I love that truck. I mean, it was not a head turner. It was a gray man. It looked like I was fresh out of the trailer park, except for I had the flatbed and a roof rack on it. I mean, a lumber rack on the top of it, because that really was my little farm truck, but it got 42 miles to the gallon. So I was driving it to work. Absolutely. I had the so I did the swap on it. I got a Mitsubishi 4D55 from Canada. They sent that down to me. I got a different oil pan for it, and it bolts right into the truck. A lot of those trucks actually came with that engine here in the States. It's not an uncommon engine. You can find those parts for those vehicles, and China is now pumping out the exact engine that you can buy. You just got to do a Google search on Alibaba, and you can find a brand new engine that's exact specs of that 4D55 and bolt it in when this engine blows up. I swapped out my axles for Toyota axles and did a leaf spring setup just because I don't like independent suspension. It's just a thing. It's more moving parts. So any way you can eliminate the extra moving parts, the more bulletproof your vehicle is going to be.
Right.
And same thing with electronics. The more you can eliminate your electronics or simplify your electronics, the more reliable it's going to become. I took the bed off because it was pretty much rusted out, and I put a flat bed on it, and I put the lumber rack on the top, and I was able to maintain my farm, go get hay, get lumber, whatever. And then I had the toolbox that was built into both sides of the truck, so I can have my, my stuff, my tools, my gear, everything I could need for. And that really was a bug out vehicle. I mean, it was small. It was really intended just to get me off the farm in downtown and get home from work. But in some cases, that's really all you need, because your home might be your bug out location because you're bugging in. Your stock filters on your stock vehicle are designed to fail. They are designed to fail. Every one of them. If you can swap out your filter systems for larger, bigger, better, you're going to bulletproof your vehicle even more. I'm talking about air filtrations. And I mean, I'm not just talking about the filter canister or brick, whatever you have in there for your vehicle. If you could swap that out for a canister filter that's off of like a semi truck or a street sweeper, or even the Isuzus and cab over trucks, they have a huge filter system on the side of their trucks with a snorkel built up on it. So they already have all the plumbing pieces there for you. Get that in underneath your hood somehow. Find a way. Your filter can do the rest of the work. So that way, God forbid, you're in a desert storm, the volcano blows up, fallout, you can get that extra crap out of your air before it gets to your air filter and clogs your air filter even faster. Keep your vehicle running, right? Okay, fuel filters. So diesel's dirty. Diesel fuel is dirty. If you can go with a bigger fuel filter with a water separator in it, you're better. There's a company called AirHog. Again, this is electric. So just look at their design and realize that you can make it a very mechanical version. And you can add 2 filters into your system. There's plenty of kits out there where you can buy the mounting kit and holds a huge filter and allows you to filter out your fuel. And then oil filters. If you can there's a lot of companies out there that sell aftermarket kits that you can screw on to where your oil filter used to go. And then it gives you 2 ports for your oil lines. Now you can run an external oil cooler, and you can run a oil filter housing that's much bigger. So that's another way you can go to bulletproof your engine and give yourself a little more oil capacity, a larger filter, and an oil cooler if you're in a hot area. I should cover this real quick. I'm not big on big lift kits. I think you should be low to the ground, lower
Lower center of gravity. Yep.
thank you. That's what I was trying to say.
Yep.
And then I think you need to be lower. Your kids need to get into this vehicle. I mean, as a family man, that's what I'm thinking.
We got to be
I don't,
practical, you know.
yeah, I got to fit under bridges. I got to go places. I mean, over there on the East Coast, I know everything's built smaller and lower, right? Um, so anyways, not a big fan on lift kits unless like if I can avoid it, I try to keep everything as low as I can. I put all my exhausts up higher. Most exhaust shops, if you pay them a little extra, they'll take the time and put your exhaust high and tight and dump it out where it needs to be dumped out. And they'll weave that exhaust where you want it, as long as you are willing to give them a little extra cash, maybe a fifth of whiskey or something, depending on your exhaust shop, right?
I think that's a big thing for deep water if we run that kind of scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, as long as you keep the throttle on when you're going through deep water and your intake is up high enough, your engine won't die.
It'll
You'll
spit
be
it
all
out.
right. Yeah, it'll keep that exhaust clean and full of air. Yeah, just don't back off on the throttle. Do not idle. That's not an option. When choosing tires, choose E-rated. Try to find heavy duty, heavy ply tires. That's what you're going for. A lot of the tire companies are really pushing these cheap tires and marking them up because they have better economy, right? They have better traction on the road. But at the end of the day, the more ply on your tires, the more bulletproof it's going to be. Literally. I mean, they have Kevlar in these tires. And just like a semi truck tire, they're going to be heavy duty and they can take a lot of weight, a lot of heat, and they don't care. They'll keep rolling. So E-rated tires. So if you go online and you look for recentered Humvee rims, there's a couple of companies out there now that are taking Humvee rims, the beadlock 17-inch rims with a run flat built into it that you can bolt onto the rim, or you can eliminate it if you choose to do that direction. And you can get any lug pattern you want, and you can run tires. It is a good way to go, but it's heavy. Keep that in mind. So this is something that I think is overlooked by a lot of people. I mean, everything I've covered, everybody's talked about. I don't hear anybody talking about putting shatterproof film on their windows, on the passenger windows, the rear windows. And this is something you can buy on Amazon for your windows at home. I mean, this is just it's a tint film basically, but it's a thick Mylar film and it holds the glass together. So for example, if you put this film in your car and you had to go downtown to pick up your kid from a basketball game, and you happen to run into one of these peaceful protesting riots, okay, your windows are going to hold together even after they try to shatter them.
Right.
I mean, it's going to take some work for them to get through that window. So they can shatter it and you can continue the drive and get your family to safety. So tint, I highly recommend. Just put it on the inside so it won't get the weird scratches and bubbles. And then you could put this film on the outside of your windows. Now you're double layered on both inside and outside for your stock OEM windows. You're not bulletproof, but you're shatterproof. And that's going to give you a lot more security just to get you out of the scenario. Okay. Now we're going to venture into the realm of get your welder out, start fabricating. So there's a metal called AR500. You normally see that when you go to buy targets, like metal steel targets for shooting. It is a high carbon iron steel. It is hard to drill. It is almost impossible to tap for threads. You're better off just welding a nut to it and bolting it on. It is really, you got to have a high caliber rifle to get through it, period. I mean, we're talking 308 and above. So all your small arm stuff is going to stop with this steel, and you can go to most fabrication shops, any place that has a CNC, plasma cutter, water jet, so on, any large fabrication shop, and you can ask for steel packages. If you can design it yourself, for example, what I did for the front of this truck was I made a louvered grill protecting the radiator. And so any bullets that hit the grill are deflected up and through the hood. And then there's a little stopper on the back you weld on for anything extra. Plus, you put expanded metal behind that, which is like the steel with like the little diamond cuts in it.
Yes.
Okay. You weld that to the back of it. That stops all the sticks and branches and whatever else that might get through the grill and try to stab your radiator. Because that's your blood, right? I mean, you'll get out of danger if you start leaking or your radiator fluid, but we want to get you all the way to your safe place.
Right.
So a louvered grill for the front. If you look up old military vehicles, you're going to see those grills. They're not uncommon. And that's where I got the idea. If you want to dabble with fiberglass, it is really similar to Kevlar. And what I did was I took fiberglass sheet and Kevlar sheet off the Wish app of all things. I got Kevlar through them. I went out and I layered it about 3 thick and I shot it with a 9mm and it stopped it no problem. So what I did is I took that stuff with the fiberglass resin and I shot it just the same thing I'm talking about, but I put it on the inside of the quarter panels and the inside of my rear quarter panels and the inside of my rear tailgate. So now any side shots from gang looters, whatever, anybody that tries to shoot at my vehicle, as long as it's small caliber, the family's a lot more protected. Onboard air. So onboard air, you can go a couple different ways with this. I like the mechanical onboard air. If you have a industrial style engine, I guarantee there's an adaptation out there somewhere that has an air compressor built into the gearbox of your engine. Just like a semi truck where they have their own air compressor built into the front engine. The 4BT has different variations of it. The Isuzus have it. They almost all have a version that has an air compressor built into that engine that runs off the planetary kit up front of the engine. If you can't do that, that's okay. There's electric versions out there and they're not that loud. I mean, they're not, attention grabbing. So I like onboard air and I like to integrate the air tanks directly into my rock sliders on the side of my vehicle. So just get 1/4 inch wall square tubing, and that's your rock slider. That's basically, it's like a step on the side of your vehicle, but instead of a step, it's a big square tube. You can still step on it, but if someone were to hit you broadside, that rock slider is going to provide so much support for your cab and protect your family. You're going to get whiplash, but nobody's going to get crushed. The second thing is I love it because in parking lots where people don't care about door dings, they hit that thing and their car is ruined. So there's that. And then because the air tanks are on the outside of the vehicle, I'm really not worried about explosions because it's 1/4 inch wall. And if they do blow out, they're going to blow out at the end of the pipes or the end of the tubes where the welds are done. And because that's always going to be the weakest point is the weld point. And so all that energy is going to be deflected front or rear and away from the passengers. And if someone ran into you, that's their fault. Let's talk about bumpers. So I like winches. I don't always need to use them. And I've had vehicles where I put them on and I never used them. And I feel so good about that because I never needed it. Get a winch bumper. And if you can get an in-frame winch bumper, which means it's not obvious that you have a winch on your vehicle, you're better off because you're actually adding strength to the frame of your vehicle. A lot of the newer vehicles are designed to crumple because they're getting rid of that whiplash to the passengers. But we're talking about survivability. We're trying to get through the block. We don't want to die we don't want to kill the vehicle at the block. So I'd rather risk myself and get us through it and deal with the trauma afterwards than getting a completely crippled vehicle. Anyways, the integrated winch bumpers that are deeper into the frames they're a better way to go. If you can buy the aftermarket kit or if you can build it yourself, that's the way to go. And then bumpers, once you have that kit, if you're building the bumper yourself or having someone build it for you and they build around that setup, you're so much better off because now you have a reinforced bumper going down your frame. I mean, it's so key. And you talked about having to deal with roadblocks, for example, right? If you're going to run a roadblock, here's a piece of advice. If you're going to run a roadblock, aim for the trunk of the vehicle. Aim for the rear of the vehicle because the mass of that vehicle is where the engine is. All the weight is there.
Right.
You're more likely to push that vehicle out of the way if you hit it from the rear, where it's going to be the lightest.
Right.
Also, slow down. You don't need to hit that roadblock at 60. Go all the way down to 40 miles an hour, even 35. You're going to blow through that roadblock like a meteoroid. And yeah, you're slowing down, you're a slower moving target, but you're more likely to maintain control of the vehicle after you blow through it if you're cruising at like 30 miles an hour tops. It's just, I don't know. I remember reading that somewhere. I think it was pit maneuver training or something for the police academy. I don't know. Anyways, that's my advice for running roadblocks. And
That's
as a truck driver, you're going to dig this. So what I did was I integrated way too much stuff in my rear bumper. I have this tip out for my spare tire because you need to have access to a spare tire. The jerry cans, so that gets tipped out to the side. Built into that bumper, what I did was a quick release pin for the tow hitch. So it's an electric release. So that way you can drop the sling load. Have you ever heard that term
yes.
for helicopter guys? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I have an RV 7-way, which means a standard plug for your
Yep.
RV trailers and stuff. But then I also have a 7-way pin, which is meant for semi trucks. This is where it gets interesting.
We call it
If
pigtail.
yep, pigtail, exactly. If you have onboard air, you can do interesting things. Let's just put it this way. My setup is designed with both a blue and red glad hand, which is the air valves on the back of the truck of a semi truck, and I have a 3-inch hitch receiver for the pintle hitch, which is like a giant hook that hooks to a round ring on the front of like dump trucks and stuff like that, the dump truck trailers. What I'm doing here is I'm setting my rig up so I can move a dolly. A dolly is the fifth wheel attachment that is on an axle with a trailer hookup that can go underneath of a semi truck trailer. If you can explain that better than what I just said, please do it.
Yeah, they're called a lot of old school truckers call them gear. You'll hear the term gear referred to a lot, but for the people that don't know, it's basically it literally looks like a fifth wheel from a truck and an axle is what it looks like, and it's called a converter dolly. Is the technical term for it. And I use these a lot in my job. We use them. You use them for hooking multiple trailers together. If you ever see like doubles and triples out on the highway, it's used to connect basically one trailer to another. And this is brilliant stuff you're getting into because this is something I haven't ever thought about. So,
Yeah.
Man, this is great because it's something I've never considered having that ability.
So, I mean, let's just say an EMP were to strike and there's a semi truck trailer or a semi truck down the road. If you can air up that truck with air and disengage its brakes, now you can get it separated from the trailer. And if that trailer is full of good dry food products or even just, I don't know, generators, if it's got everything you need in the back of that trailer, there's no reason why you can't slip that dolly underneath that trailer, hook up to it, and pull it with your half-ton truck.
As long as it's not too heavy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're not, as long as you're not climbing hills or going down steep hills, right? I mean, if we're on flat ground and we're just moving around, there's no reason why we can't go at 20 miles an hour, put it in low range in your transfer case, and get your big old trailer down the road and get it onto your property or your bug out location.
Well,
There's,
another thing about that too, if you're in a situation where you have to take cover or you can move trailers and basically create your own defense grid around you.
buddy.
Like throwing that in a different direction. You can go in a trailer yard and you can surround yourself with trailers and basically have you a bunker. You could build your own bunker. There's a lot of different directions. That's brilliant stuff, man, that I've never even thought about.
Through the blue glad hand. Am I saying that right?
Yeah. That would be the service line is what we'd refer to it, trucking. But yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Yeah, and then obviously, if you guys don't know, if the listeners don't know what the heck I'm talking about, leave it to somebody else. Let them figure it out.
Right.
Don't start building this.
Right.
We're talking. This is pretty dangerous. It's not your average individual will do this. Okay, working down my list. Backup lights. Get crazy with backup lights. I love backup lights and put them on a switch, and right there in the cab because it's just nice to be able to light up the whole world sometimes, especially when people are on your bumper. And let's just say there happens to be an individual on your bumper that wants to shoot at you. If you throw in some lights, they're going to have a hard time aiming, especially while they're moving. So I like fog lights down low and I like spotlights up top. So fog lights are like a broad spectrum, close range, and the spotlights are up top and they have like a long range view, kind of like what the cops use on their for directional when you pull you over and blind you. But I put those up top so they shoot way down the road behind me and I can see where I'm backing into or blind the guy that's riding my bumper and wants to hurt my family. Bumper. My rear winch is only a 9,000. The front is all 12,000. All right. So if you're a ham radio guy, you might get excited about this. So what I did with my ham radio stuff was I have a UHF VHF ham radio built into my dash. It's just a cheap Chinese KTY 8900D. So it's a 25 watt radio, super small. It's like 2 packs of cards or like 2 packs of cigarettes. It's integrated to my in-dash tablet that I put into my into a little bit to the right of, I don't know if you remember like the old Chevy consoles, but I took out the vent that's right above the shifter and I put a tablet right there. And what that's doing for me, it allows me to do SDR, software defined radio. So I can download NOAA weather. I can download satellite imagery. I can see airplanes above me and their signatures. I can download data packets through FLDigi. There we go. I can't talk. And then with another system, you can use Meshtastic. I don't know if you got into this at all, but write that down, Meshtastic, and Google that. It is the coolest little closed network data package sending. It's like text messaging, but without the phone. So you can send a closed network message across town, and if other people have the Meshtastic device, you can piggyback off theirs as a repeater, and you can encrypt this. Oh, it's cool stuff.
That sounds like cool stuff. I'll have to check into that.
And then there's another app out there called ATAK, ATAK, and that's a military application, a military app that's on their tablets, but there's a civilian version out there that works with Meshtastic. That way you and your group can be on a Google map together and only you guys can see each other and you guys know where each other are. And then you guys can send messages to one another to coordinate whatever it is that you need to do to get through a roadblock or get around an obstacle or deal with an obstacle. Just saying. And then there's something called a black box. This is really common for aerospace, where they have like a recording box on the vehicle somewhere.
Airplane. Yeah.
On the airplane. Well, you can buy this on eBay. It's a black box. It's got a hard drive built into it, and you've got multiple cameras tied into the black box, so it's recording on 4 sides. Then it has an output, so it can come up to your tablet. If you change out your front camera,
use it for surveillance.
Well, if you change out your front camera to a night vision camera, and you got the right switches in your vehicle, you can now drive at night without a single light on.
Wow.
Yeah, but you're flying by the camera. I mean,
Yeah,
you are
yeah. So
driving.
short distance, low speeds type thing, but that could be a game changer though, and
It
in a
really could be.
SHTF situation. So
Yeah, and then if you swap out a couple of your other lights and look up security camera um, um, NV spotlights or infrared spotlights, they're a 12 volt. It's like it's made for this. It's a 12-volt uh, infrared spotlight that you can mount right into your bumper, and it's meant for security cameras. Now you have basically spotlights that only your camera can see, unless somebody else has night vision. Of course, they're going to see this giant spotlight going down the road. Um, but now you have actual headlights for your night vision camera, and you're cruising down the road. And I wouldn't go any faster than 30, but
right.
you can move along. And your vehicle is being recorded on the black box too. So if someone were to mess with your vehicle or something crazy were to happen and you want to show your buddies, you got the black box. And of course, normal everyday life, you got the black box to record your accident or the jerk in front of you. um, all right, here's something that everybody should do for every vehicle. I don't care what you own. If you can get into your vehicle and you need to change your battery, it's time to start disconnecting random connectors, and you spray them with this anti-corrosive waterproofing grease. It's called dielectric grease. Do this to every single one of your connectors. Anything you can take apart, anything that you care about that's important, like your headlights, spray this on there because you just waterproofed your connector with it. You packed it full of grease and it will not transfer energy through the grease. It's dielectric grease. It will not do it. It's just a huge resistor. It won't allow yeah, it's the best way to go. So you're talking about going through deep water. If you didn't do this beforehand, you're going to wish you did, because your sensors are going to freak out when they fill with water unless you have already packed your sensor plugins like your water, your coolant temp, your intake temp, whatever on your modern vehicle. If you spray it with this, it's going to save the connection, and it's going to save your computer from killing your engine because it doesn't know what's happening. Okay, so here's something I want to do. I haven't done this yet. So I just saw this really cool video where this guy took an adapter and it clamps around any kind of CO2 can, and it's on an electric switch. So then I started looking at fire extinguishers, clamping this on there, and now I have a Halon fire extinguisher system for my engine bay or my cab of my vehicle on an electric switch,
Nice.
right? So I got really jazzed about that and got into that, and then all of a sudden that got into, well, wait a minute, I could do this with pepper spray.
Hey.
So
Talk
so I
about
mean,
defense. There you go.
yeah. So I mean, there's all kinds of opportunities there that you can play with and start running around with. So right now inside my cab, I have one 10-pound fire extinguisher and one in the driver's side of the cab. So two total 10-pound fire extinguishers, ABCs. Make sure you get the right fire extinguisher for the vehicles. ABC is a dry fire extinguisher repellent. So if it's a gas, that it's a vapor, it'll knock it down with the ABC white powder in the fire extinguisher. Super important. On the school buses nowadays, you're going to see this little bag of chain hanging just on the inside of the wheel. Those are auto snow chains. They swing out from the frame or the axle itself right in front of the tire, and they touch the tire and they spin with the tire, and they throw a chain right in front of the tire for the school bus to drive on. So if you did that, I don't have this, but if you did this to your rig, you can have auto snow chains right now. So you can flip a switch from your cab, because I mean, any chance you can not stop, any chance that you can prevent yourself from stopping, it could be a game changer, especially in a scenario like this. And for extra
Right.
traction for snow and whatnot, this could be your ticket. So that's just something I've always considered, and I just haven't had a reason to go find them and make it work, but it's an option that I've always considered. When working on your rig, because you need to work on your rig because you need to familiarize yourself with your rig. So do your own oil changes, do your own tire changes, do what you can to your rig, even if you're not
Practice.
mechanically inclined, do it. Get out there and work on it. And then when you're working on it, do not put your tools away. Any tool that you actually used on the vehicle, throw it on the bench and keep it in a pile. Because at the end of your project, whatever you're doing, being it putting on a bumper or whatever you happen to be doing that weekend on your rig, you can take stock of what tools got used on that vehicle. You write that down on a list and you go buy those tools specifically for your kit for that vehicle. That way you're
And
not
keep
packing
it in
around.
the vehicle if you need them.
Yeah, that way you have at least a go bag. That way you
Yep.
can grab your vehicle tool bag, go bag, and throw it in the back when you're going to go camping and you're going to go on a trip or whatever. You can grab that tool bag and you know that you're not packing a 9 millimeter wrench, because I have ever used that on anything. I think I used that on a Volkswagen. Never mind. That's where that wrench comes in handy. There's just some tools that are in every toolkit that you're never going to use it. You're
Right.
going to lose it and never realize you lost it. Um, so being able to like categorize what tools are actually required for that vehicle, like knowing that you're going to need at least two 10 millimeter wrenches to be able to do a specific task that you might need to do, it's important to have it.
Definitely.
Um, yeah, work on your vehicles and drive your vehicle. I don't care if it's your daily or whatever. Um, I really want to stress on this one other thing. Loud mufflers are dumb. They're just dumb. Stay quiet and stay forgettable.
Gray
I
man.
re- yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. Just stay quiet. I mean, people can see you drive by, but if they didn't hear you, that's one less sense they got to worry about. You got to worry about them remembering you with. And us humans, we like to remember things with our senses, from smell, from the sound, and from taste, and so on. If we can keep our engines quiet, our vehicles quiet, it's one less thing they are going to remember about us. Um,
Great advice.
Stay legal. Keep your vehicle legal. Get the fender flares. Do what you got to do to keep it legal. Don't give officers a reason to pull you over. Just don't. Don't be that guy. If you can stay legal, there's just no reason for you to have uh, things that look like guns sticking out your fenders. It's just ridiculous. I've seen these paintball kits you can buy for fender flares. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's cool, but I don't need to be that guy.
Draws a lot of attention.
Yeah, don't be
Yeah.
that guy. Just keep it legal. I mean, there's a lot of Jeepers out there. Let them draw the attention. And there's a lot of goofballs out there. Let them draw all that attention. Um, okay. If you're looking for a shop to do the work for you, you're going to find that the dealership isn't going to do the work for you. If you're looking for a shop, you're going to find your RV guys, your RV repair shops, your custom welding fabrication shops, your muffler shops, um, what's the other one I was thinking about earlier? Your off-road and expedition um, suppliers are usually going to have some kind of a shop attached to them. I recommend going to those shops when you need work done, but only go to the really small ones where the owner is the mechanic, or go to someone that's really big where they're going to fix it if something's wrong.
Right.
Because generally, all those shops in between, you don't have to be certified to work on an RV. There's nothing you have to be certified for. You don't need to go to school for that. You don't need schooling you don't even need a background check to work at one of these places. They are full of these guys that just didn't make it to be a high caliber person, and they're working. Well, I mean, I understand that there are exceptions. There's plenty of exceptions out there. There's good people out there, but there is a ridiculous amount of dumb, bad people looking for opportunities to screw you over. Or they're just taking shortcuts down there and they're not going to do good work. I can't tell you how many times I was like, just screw it, just take it to the shop. I'll deal with it.
Right.
And I don't have the time right now to work on everything. So just take it to the shop. And then I get it back and I'm just pissed because they took some shortcut. They did some weird thing. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? Really? You couldn't have taken 3 minutes and put some Loctite on this? So yeah, be careful where you take your stuff. I like going to the small shops that are just owner operator. and the guy that owns the shop is the mechanic, because you're going to get a higher quality of that guy.
Yeah.
And then
They're going
of
to take
course,
personal pride in it.
oh yeah,
In
absolutely. And if you're
in their work and in their reputation, both.
and pay the guy. I know we're all tight on money right now, but pay the guy. This is his life. If you pay
Well,
the guy, if you
when you go for your next project, he's going to
oh
remember
man,
that tip that you gave him the last time, and
right.
he's going to go that extra mile for you, and he's going to take care of you, versus that
And
other person that didn't give him jack. So
right.
great advice.
Yeah, I mean, don't be a jerk about it. Be like,
Yeah,
hey, I want to know more about this. So, what have we got done today? If you go down there for a service, like what's all involved in the service? I mean, just be honest about it and be like, hey, I
yeah,
really just don't know. I want to learn more about this. And if you're honest with these people and you don't have an attitude about it, yeah, you just spent $1,500 for them to change your spark plugs and oil. I understand that's a lot of money, but if you come at them with a sense of respect and, just honesty of like what actually got done. I want to know. That way I understand what's happening here. And then, for example, my wife comes at me and says, why'd you spend $1,500 on an oil change? I can tell her that all these things got changed out. Just throwing that out there.
absolutely. Great
um,
advice, man.
on both sides. And
Yeah.
then,
All right, man.
um,
I think you've covered pretty much everything that, and you've covered so many things that I think most people, even committed preppers like myself, wouldn't even think about. And I mean, that's just awesome stuff. So,
one more thing.
yep,
One more thing. Listen, I say this out of protecting my family and anybody else's family, or the whatever I'm charged with. For example, my kids' friends, whoever's in my vehicle, they're my care, right? I'm responsible to make sure their health is taken care of. If we're in a situation where I'm bugging out and I've got my family with me, I'm not looking for a fight. If we come to a roadblock and they've got guns, I'm going to try to turn around
absolutely. That's what a
every
smart
day.
prepper is going to do every time.
I'm not here to fight a war. I'm trying to get my family safe. I just don't want to. Now, you remove my element of the one thing that I live for, and I will bring everything to your doorstep.
That's right.
But that's just it, though. I mean, this is the reason that I stay legal. This is the reason why I'm on the right side of the law, is because I have a family to protect and make sure that they're fed and watered, and they grow up to be people, the good people that provide for our society. And that's my take on this, and I just wanted to share that as guys, be responsible, guys, gals, be responsible for your family and protect your family. We're not here to fight a war. We're trying to get everybody safe, then fight the war.
Yep. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. So,
Yeah.
Grumpy, thanks, man. This has been,
Yeah.
you've really covered a lot of things that committed preppers like myself wouldn't even think about half the time. So I appreciate your knowledge. I appreciate your expertise. And I appreciate you coming on talking to us about all this stuff.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, brother. I appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, later.
All right. That's my show this week. I want to thank my special guest, Grumpy, for coming on and sharing all his expertise. Please be sure to follow me and follow the show on all my social media: Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube. Or you can email me at thepppodcast@yahoo.com. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Politics, Prepping, and Paranormal Podcast. Your source for real news and analysis on politics, prepping, paranormal, conspiracy theories, and the volatile state of the world we live in. Tune in next week and every week for a new episode, and stay safe, stay healthy, and stay vigilant.